Well, the time has come to talk about the stupidest app in the world.
Yo.
Yo. It's an app that raised millions of dollars and all it did was let you send yos to your friends. No texts, no images, just yos. I remember when I was starting my first company, these guys announced their round of funding in TechCrunch. And my immediate thought was, well, if they can raise money, then any entrepreneur can. And no, that's not the way it works, but that does not mean that the app wasn't stupid. And I'm not the first one to poke at it, so let's look at the background story of Yo. Also, remember that the first 5 comments on any video get to join our weekly office hours session, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and that bell button to stay tuned to the latest videos. How the stupidest app in the world was born. Moshe Hogeg wanted to know if people were available, like his assistant, his wife, and his co-workers. But he thought emails were complicated and they took too long. So I got to give it to him. He was right. So Hogeg was the CEO of Mobley. This was a social network platform that would go bankrupt in 2016. But at the time of this idea, around 2014, Mobley was still popular. So he was a busy man. He wanted a simple solution. So what was his idea? Well, in Hogeg's own words, it was a dumb app. He wanted to send a one-word notification to someone else, easily and quickly. That's it, just one word. But the idea was so dumb that he had to convince one of his engineers to do it. And it didn't take just one try. No, he pressured this poor engineer, or Arbel, for weeks. So there are reports that Arbel's attitude towards Yo was anything close to motivating. On the contrary, he dragged his feet with every meeting with Hogeg because he knew that Yo would be a topic. Arbel thought it was stupid, and he didn't want to do it. But hey, the boss is the boss. So after weeks and weeks of begging him, Hogeg got Arbel to develop this dumb app. And guess what? Arbel designed it in 8 hours. For inspiration, he thought of how he communicated with his friends. Well, to know if somebody was up for a chat, he would send them an exclamation mark or a question mark, and they would reply. So he created an app that did exactly that, but with a different word, Yo. And that's it. It was so dumb, so simple, and yet beautiful. And here's the irony. Hogeg loved it. But the idea did embarrass him, so he didn't really tell anyone. He even warned Arbel never to publish it under Mobley's name because the company was serious and he knew the idea was stupid. But, and this is a big but, he did end up publishing it. So maybe it wasn't that dumb. The dumbest app in the world enters the market. So when these two quietly launched Yo on April Fools, Apple rejected it. It couldn't be in the App Store because it was too simple. And here's where things get interesting. Hogeg and Arbel fought back on the rejection, so perhaps they weren't as embarrassed about it as they led the world to believe. Eventually, Hogeg told people. At first, he only shared it with close friends and family like his wife, and then he told his employees. And yes, Yo was a dumb idea, but that didn't stop people from using it. In the first months of this secret beta test, 20,000 people were using it, mainly in Tel Aviv. And they were yoing like crazy. So yes, that's the verb we're gonna use. Hogeg and Arbel were on to something. Business Insider reports that Robert Scoble, a tech blogger, visited Hogeg and Hogeg showed them the idea. And Scoble referred to Yo as the stupidest, most addictive app he had seen in his life. Scoble then posted a link to it on Facebook, and another friend read about it and started using it. And that's how it rose to the top, really. In no time, Hogeg and Arbel got emails from Silicon Valley nonstop. Now, you might think that that's a dream come true, but no. For them, it was a problem. You see, Yo was a goofy side project with no actual planning. There was no team behind it, no vision for the future, and yet big names were knocking on their doors. So Hogeg and Arbel had to do something, anything. And that's when the two dove into the stats. Speaking of stats, it's time to talk about our sponsor today, ChartMogul. So we've been using ChartMogul, their tool, for over 5 years to track the performance of our own SaaS business. And if you haven't already, I really recommend that you watch the video that we produced in partnership with ChartMogul a little bit ago. It's called Customer Churn: How to Save Your Startup. In that video, I dive into what churn is and why it can be deadly for a SaaS business and how it almost killed Slidebean as well. Thankfully, a tool like ChartMogul can save your business by providing you with incredibly valuable insights about customer churn so that you can quickly reduce it by addressing the root of the issue. ChartMogul is also free. It's free for any company with under $10,000 in MRR. So if you have over $10,000 of MRR, you can get a $50 a month credit for 12 months by going to chartmogul.com/Slidebean. A big thanks to the ChartMogul team for sponsoring this video. Now back to the story. Yo, we're onto something here. Yo launched in April 2014, and by mid-July, the app had over 2 million downloads. On average, users were sending 2 million Yos per day. So their engagement was beyond anything any investor had seen. From outside eyes, Yo made perfect sense. Arbel and Hogeg had managed to create a popular app that was simple to design and took almost no investment. And the company was also growing. Well, when I say growing, I mean they hired one other person, Isaiah Turner. And how he got there is actually a very interesting story. In short, he hacked them. 3 university students, including Turner, hacked the app and obtained private data, then spammed thousands of numbers with endless Yos. Arbel was so impressed that after apologizing to the users, he decided to hire Turner, and that's when the dumb idea turned into a promise. Now, keep in mind that the founders had humble ambitions. If they managed to get a couple 100,000, then it would have been a success, but that didn't happen. Instead, they saw more than $1 million come their way. By July 2014, they had raised $1.5 million through a seed round and had a valuation of over $5 million. And get this, Hogeg has said that he rejected over $2.5 million in funding because there was too much uncertainty around Yo. Still, they had big names like Pete Cashmore from Mashable and BetaWorks, even if Yo was the butt of all jokes. Everyone from tech blogs to comedians loved mocking Yo. And it's easy to see why, but there's a twist. Investors believe that this simple idea that was born out of a joke could have potential. Quick notifications are a mainstay now, and this app had the base for this and for other notification systems. In fact, the Israeli government used it to push warnings of possible missile strikes, sending massive Yos in case of a threat. So there was potential? Hogeg and Arbel just needed to work on it. Yo evolves, but is it enough? With money in the bank, big-name investors had a successful idea. Arbel and Hogeg got to work evolving Yo. They wanted to improve it to the point in which it no longer seemed stupid. Plus, there was already pressure. The idea was too dumb and too smart, so complications arose. Many clones appeared that did precisely the same thing. Developed very quickly, of course. Fortunately for Yo, there's only room for one excellent, stupid idea. Hogeg and Arbel first included Yo Link. It's exactly what you would think. You send a Yo with a link. That's it. The idea was to share effortlessly, and it had great potential with short articles and breaking news. And then there was the idea of Insta-Yo. I'm not kidding. Say a friend posts an excellent photo, so you can Insta-Yo it to your friends. So there was the next logical step. Hashtags and personalized profiles. So the two even derived with a version for the Windows Phone. But we all know how the Windows Phone went. Still, thanks to a combination of luck, upgrades, and simplicity, Yo was very popular. In its heyday, the app reached number 4 in the App Store, and that's no easy feat. By October 2014, Yo launched other improvements, including Yoing locations to your friends, so businesses like restaurants and gyms were warming up to the idea of linking up with Yo for more promotion. But the numbers also showed that early adopters were losing interest. It makes perfect sense. After all, even after all the efforts, the simplicity made you wonder if there was more to it. The end is near. Yes, there were upgrades and improvements, but gimmicks die. We outgrow them, and Yo was no exception. Remember Insta-Yo? This ran dry as Instagram blocked Yo from their API. Even if the company made considerable efforts to remain cool, in 2015, Yo had included new features such as Yoing pictures and creating private messaging groups. But the writing was on the wall before that. By late 2014, experts were already counting Yo out. The app added nothing to their lives. Remember that number 4 spot? Well, only a few months later, they were already ranked below 1,000 in the App Store. So Arbel and Hogeg believed in the idea, but how can you rescue something that started as a joke, that had no future vision or solid team behind it? So their efforts were fleeting. In February 2015, Yo started providing links to content that you could Yo to other friends. And Yo called it a content store, but the idea didn't really catch on. After all, the content was free, so none of these weird random efforts were striking gold. So Yo, of course, continued to lose popularity. As fast as Yo came, Yo disappeared. By 2016, Yo as a company shut down. Hogeg's own Mobley had lost power, and he ventured into working with blockchain startups. Arbel started working in another startup as well. So it was time for Yo to end. Well, not quite, it seems. Arbel couldn't let it go. So in 2018, he launched a Patreon campaign asking for 5,000 patrons for Yo to stay alive. And the last registry shows around 200. But we shouldn't feel sad. After all, it was born as a joke, and it worked. It made us laugh. Too bad it ended with a sour note. But what can you expect in these cases?